everyone, welcome to another episode of Inspired for Impact. This is your host Nidhi Rathi. Today we have Mr. Arush Chopra with us, who is the founder of a clean beauty brand. So let's dive into his inspiring story and learn from his experience. Namaste and welcome to our podcast, Arush.
Hi Nidhi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for giving us so much time here.
No worries.
So as we were talking offline, Abhi, you just mentioned that, how Singapore is different in comparison to India and, how everything is very different from here. Mm-hmm. So what actually ignited the fire in you to come back from Singapore from a well-settled career and start a company here, that too in the clean beauty space of it?
Right, it's a good question, right? So sometimes even when I returned, people were asking me the same question. So because I built Just Herbs out of Chandigarh, right?
Correct.
And in Chandigarh, if you know, every sector, every market has at least 4 immigration centers.
Correct.
Right? So people were saying, यार सब लोग चाहते हैं Canada चले जाएं, UK migrate हो जाएं, तुम वहाँ का छोड़ के यहाँ आ गए, क्या करने के लिए आ गए? So what was happening was that whilst we were there, I was working with an investment firm which used to invest in agricultural assets across the globe. I was not on the investment side, but more on the sort of sales side, right? Pitching to clients that look, a market like Vietnam is the future because there's young people there, there's high demographic dividend, high disposable incomes and whatnot. Look at Indonesia, and in those small little island nations around. And I thought to myself, look, there's more people in Uttar Pradesh than, a few of these islands put together,
Correct.
This is where the growth is going to be. What are we doing sitting here? At the age and stage that we are, I must have been probably your age or a little older. Megha and I had just gotten married. She was also working in a corporate. She was working in a company where she was marketing. It was an Indian company which was marketing raw materials that are used in personal care.
Okay.
All the stuff we don't use in Just Herbs, but she was marketing those to a lot of players in that region.
Correct.
I didn't have a background in finance. She didn't have a background in science, but I don't know how. But we were selling, in our own ways. We were in sort of sales roles, you could say. We decided that it's either now or never. The decision wasn't so easy. Took us about a year to sort of marinate it, and I wish I should have done that earlier. But that's how we kind of left everything and came here.
Great. So people also say that you've been running your business with your wife and your mother, right? लोग बोलते हैं कि women's के साथ काम करना is not an easy job, as they put it, right? And you, both of them are your co-founders. So how has the journey been for you with working with 2 incredible, powerful females?
ऐसा तो नहीं है कि women के साथ काम करना मुश्किल है.
There's this stereotype that people usually have.
I don't think that is true at all. I think we have a lot of women working at Just Herbs, and I get along with all of them just fine. I think the other thing about how it is to work with family members, I think that's what you really mean. Not easy, right? It is difficult. In fact, I've had investors tell me, we have seen, husband and wife fighting and getting divorced and investments going to the dogs. And here, there's a husband, wife, and there is a mom in the picture. They've said it to my face multiple times. And I have to admit, there are moments when it is difficult to work with, family. But the advantages of doing that, they far outweigh the disadvantages, because you can completely blindly trust somebody. And in any team, right, which is trying to do something very big, very sort of where the odds are completely stacked against you. I think the one thing that is really needed in any team, for that matter, is unwavering trust, right? And how it can't be better than working with people you can completely trust, which are your family, right? So it's a huge plus when you start.
Also, once you come back, with a set mindset and you have family that is into the same mindset, it gets a little easier for you to, take things in life.
Yeah.
That is what I also feel. Since you said that, you had a background, Megha also had a background, why did you both choose specifically the clean beauty space of it?
So we didn't choose anything, right? So it wasn't like we sort of decided that, okay, this is an area where there's money to be made, let's go do this. No. So Megha and I go back a long way. So we met first in college in Bombay. So I went to St. Xavier's College and she was studying in Sophia College.
Okay.
We didn't know each other before that. We met through a common friend. She's from Delhi, I'm from Chandigarh, right? When we met there, Megha used to live with a few of her friends, share an apartment, and used to get a lot of acne and stuff, she and her friends, and I would give her these unlabeled bottles of Uptons and creams and stuff, which my mom used to make. And they used to love it. And they were like, why can't we buy this in the market? And I'm like, yeah, because you can only buy it through me, right? And that's why.
That is how you guys clicked on?
Yeah, that's how it happened. But we didn't do anything about it. I didn't do anything about it for, I think, the longest time. I got on with my life, finished college, did a few things in the middle, reached Singapore. You know, there was no plan of doing this, but at the back of my head, I knew that what mom's doing is pretty solid, right? We have a solid product. So we thought, why not just go back and just work on this, right? So it wasn't that we kind of, chose this or anything. There were only 3-4 basic products, but the germ, the seed is my mother's sort of passion, because she studied biochemistry, and then when we were grown up, etc., she said that now I'm going to just do what I like doing. And she studied Ayurveda, and then she married the two, right?
Correct.
So typically, you either have people who studied Ayurveda or you only studied science. But when you have somebody who's coming from a scientific background and then studies Ayurveda, they focus more on the similarities than the differences, right?
Correct.
So that's my mom, and I found that really fascinating, right? And I thought that needed to be built into something bigger.
Absolutely.
So came back, decided to settle down in Chandigarh, where all of it is happening, rather than elsewhere. And the idea was never to sort of make a massive make massive revenues or sort of IPO or whatever. No, I'll be very honest. There was a very simple sort of it was a passion project for us. We wanted to kind of do this. And get the joy of creating something, creating a brand.
Correct.
And when we saw that, it is happening, people are responding in a very nice way. That's when we thought, like, let's go and let's run with it.
Absolutely. So as you were telling me, Arush, what was the story behind Just Herbs? तभी आपने शुरू किया. Now you must be having a mission in your head, right? This is where I want to take Just Herbs in probably 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line. So what's that mission and vision for you?
यार मतलब मिशन और विजन तो चेंज होता रहता है, राइट? एंड अब मैंने ना ज़्यादा उसके बारे में सोचना वगैरह बंद कर दिया है. आई मेड अ कॉन्शियस एफर्ट कि आई एम गोना नाउ एंजॉय एवरी डे. तो मैं सोचता नहीं कि यार मेरा मिशन है कि इसको इतना XYZ करोड़ का ब्रांड बना देना है. वो हो जाएगा, दैट इज गुड, बट आई वांट टू डिटैच माई सेल्फ फ्रॉम दैट आउटकम एंड जस्ट एंजॉय द राइड.
Correct.
एंड आई हैव नोटिस्ड in the past 8-10 years of doing this is that the moment I have embraced that mindset now, I've genuinely sort of enjoyed it, and the outcomes also have become
You feel
much
more
better.
content with whatever you're doing rather than being in that rat race of
Absolutely. So we have, I mean, that's not to say that we don't have any targets or an annual operating plan, or my team doesn't have a target, but I think I don't think of this business in that way. I think more or less the way I look at it is that I think we want to create a brand that outlasts us, right? This is a brand which we want to create forever. It should mean something to some people.
It should be.
Can't mean everything to everyone, but to those people who this has a meaning. That meaning, that legacy of Just Herbs should outlive Megha, Arush, and Nina.
Absolutely,
right?
Does make sense. So when we're talking about Just Herbs, probably you can, on the personality of the brand, suggest 3 words that you feel that describes the brand. They should also match your value system, because it's more of a value embedded brand for you, right?
Yeah.
So just probably 3 words that you can share.
I think there are basically the 3 words would be a sage, a rebel, and somebody who's honest.
Sage and rebel both together.
Yes. In fact, we undertook, after, about 2 or 3 years ago, we actually hired some experts to kind of do a consumer study to figure out what do people think about us. I mean, we've existed for 7-8 years, and
Correct.
And we were looking for a packaging change. So we did that exercise before we even began with the whole process of changing the colors and the things. We thought, let's first figure out what do people currently think of us. So we spoke to people who've been using us regularly, people who've stopped using us, and people who've heard of us but haven't yet tried us. Parallelly, they spent a lot of time speaking to us founders, because the idea was that for a business like ours, right, the founders, the brand, or what people think of you is a big reflection of what the founders are all about.
Correct, absolutely.
So sage, because it comes from a place of knowledge. So it's not that we just woke up one day and we thought आजकल creams बड़े easily बन जाती हैं, कहीं से भी बनवा लो, sticker लगा लो पत्ते का और बोल दो कि ये natural है, ये organic है. But it comes from solid knowledge. For somebody who's gotten 6 gold medals back in the day, when starting up wasn't cool.
Correct.
Right.
This was not fancy.
When going in, completing your education wasn't that common for a lot of women, right? From that person is this is where that is the source of the knowledge that on which the products are based, and she still continues to be that source, right? That's why it's a sage, right? So it's about knowledge. It's a rebel because if you remember when you're in school, there are those teachers sometimes or any people around you in your friend circle, etc., who kind of talk sense and they kind of make you look at something in a new way, right? Absolutely. Who challenge the commonly held belief about something, and in that process you're like, oh God, मैंने तो कभी ऐसा सोचा नहीं था इसके बारे में. I never thought about it in this way, and through that you start respecting them or falling in love with them, right? That's what Just Herbs, the core personality is. So it's a mixture of a sage and a rebel, right? And the third thing is honesty. I mean, we say things the way they are. We operate in an industry where the sort of honesty quotient is questionable. So we try to be different from that pack. We were among the first people to say, 8-9 years ago, we are paraben free, we are free from XYZ. Today, I think that is hygiene, and that's a good thing, right? Everybody should be. 8-9 years
back, किसी को पता भी नहीं था what are parabens and all that stuff, right? वो conversation अब आने लगा है, and you started it way back.
Right. तो हम उसके बारे में ज़्यादा बात ही नहीं करते. In fact, the new logo that we have now, उसमें से वो leaf वाला part भी हमने निकाल दिया है, because see, the point is the consumer has also evolved, right?
Correct.
Like today, if I tell you, this is natural because there's a picture of a leaf, you'll be like, come on, I'd rather read the ingredient list and make up my mind. And our name is Just Herbs, yeah. So we dropped that leaf and it's just block letters now, So that's what the brand is today, and it'll keep evolving, right? So
correct. As the time evolves, obviously the brand also needs to evolve to cater to the correct customer segment also, right?
Absolutely.
So since you've been building Just Herbs from quite some time now, obviously there must have been times जहाँ पे बहुत tough decision आपको लेने पड़े होंगे, या फिर there could have been circumstances जो कि tough भी होंगे, but in a way they must have molded you as an entrepreneur or as a person for that matter, which you inherit today also in your personal life. So if you could share some instances that way.
There's too many of them, yeah. I think there's too many. I mean, I could go on and on. I think I get shaped by my experiences every day. There's not a single day that is just the same as what
the
previous day was. So plenty of them, yeah. I think one thing I think which was new, right, was to kind of raise capital for your business. Going to investors, pitching to investors, etc. It's probably the most humbling experience ever. Facing rejection, one after the other. And my favorite analogy is like, it's like being in a kickboxing match. Like you're getting punched in your face, you're getting kicked on your face.
And you're going back again.
And you fall down and you're full of blood, and then you just get up to fight again.
Correct.
That's the attitude you got to keep being an entrepreneur, right? So I know it's very celebrated, funding, this,
Absolutely.
that, we're sitting in Gurgaon. You know what I'm talking about. But this is a real thing. I think this is what it is. Not many people may talk about it, but this is one thing. That grit, that sort of resilience. I think that has been the biggest lesson of this entire journey. What else? Your question was what, sorry?
So probably some instances that have shaped you as a person.
Yeah.
Today,
So this has made me realize that this type of that grit and resilience, right? If you keep at it, things happen. I've actually lived through that. So
correct. So I was just going through your LinkedIn the other day. You just made a post that you have quitted so many times in your life, right? So probably now when you come and talk about this, it makes more sense, right? Because पहले obviously before an entrepreneur आपका कुछ habits होता है, तरीका होता है, तो आप easily give up कर देते हो. But once you enter that field of entrepreneurship, usually you start getting that thick skin. कि नहीं यार, मतलब we need to make it happen.
Correct. So that is one discipline, right? And I try to tell that to my team as well, right? So, you know, in fact, very interesting. So I told you I have a bad back. So
Correct.
the place where I'm going for physio now is a center run by Abhinav Bindra, the Olympian,
Okay.
right? And there on the wall it says there's the Olympic rings, and under that it says it doesn't happen every 4 years; it happens every day. And that is exactly what I want to tell my team as well, right? The discipline of being consistent and doing this over and over and over again and not giving up. I think to me that has been the biggest lesson out of doing what I do.
Absolutely.
That has been the biggest learning.
So usually what happens is, you know, since we were talking about it pehle bhi, you know, offline also, that, you know, people glamorize a lot of, you know, startups that have raised funds. You have worked in the both domains of it, right? Where you were bootstrapped for the longest time of it. Then you recently, you know, some years back you raised funds. So how do you think the journey changes from a bootstrapped company to a, you know, company which has raised XYZ capital?
Yeah, I think
how does it go?
I'm pretty well qualified to talk about this because I ran as a bootstrap entrepreneur for 4 years.
Correct.
Then I've worked with VCs and angels. Then I've sold a controlling stake to a
Correct.
big company.
Yeah.
And now we're a subsidiary of a big company working independently. So I've kind of seen all those phases. And I'm not an MBA, not an IIT,
Correct.
right? So I think, what would you like to know?
I would like to know how the journey is different, right? मतलब
I
how
don't-
do you think of it? What do you prefer now? मतलब आपने हर एक phase में अपनी company को run किया है. How do you prefer to run it as Arush?
Yeah, I don't think I would like to change anything in terms of, you know, see, the point is that you need capital to build a business,
Yeah.
right? You can, not that capital could be your own, that capital could be your dad's, your friends, right?
Correct.
It could be from the bank, or it could be from an external investor. You have to realize that raising money from investors, equity capital is the most expensive form of capital, right? So should be used for growth,
Very wisely also.
and very wisely as well, right? So that's it. There's nothing wrong with it, right? And, you know, as far as funding is celebrated and all that, I kind of agree with you. I think people make too much noise about it, especially the media.
Correct.
And without explaining the sort of, you know, the real fine print behind
Correct,
it, you know.
correct. So it's more of like every other day you'll see an article that, you know, XYZ startup has raised XYZ funds. But what is to glorify in that? They're doing it to build something up.
I don't know, somebody wrote somewhere, like some founder I know said, when your valuation to sab moh maya hai, you know. That's what, and I completely agree, because the valuation is like, you know, I'm sitting in this house, I think it's worth X crores.
Correct.
But that's what I think, right?
Correct.
Valuation तो भैया तब पता लगेगी जब ये बिकेगा उतने में.
Absolutely.
ठीक है, तो that is the real value, right? So this is all you know, notional sort of this thing, and it serves the investor. You know, this doesn't serve the entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And you know, I again, you know, one of our you know, former investors, Mr. Japan Vyas, who had backed us at a time when we really needed capital. He said, you know, becoming a unicorn is not your need as a founder, it's the need of the investor. You know, overcapitalization of a business
Correct.
is also a problem, and I think we are seeing that around us.
Seeing that around us nowadays with whatever is happening
Yeah.
into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, you know, since we had this conversation as of now, so, you know, let's do a chota sa creative round where, you know, I'll be giving you a creative idea, you know, something out of the box which has not happened as of now, and you need to share your response in respect to that.
Okay.
Right? So, ideally, it would be a crazy invention, and you need to share your idea about it. You know, क्या हो सकता है वो आपके लिए? So, say एक कोई futuristic gadget launch किया Just Herbs ने, what would that gadget be? And you know, how would that be different from any other gadget as of now into the beauty industry?
Well, I
You
don't
can
know.
be very hilarious, you can be creative, whatever you feel.
Gadget could be like, I don't know, like you wear your glasses and your dark circles are gone, right? Because I think you could get past pots and pots of under eye cream, and I'm putting it out there. You know, getting rid of dark circles is not that simple, because it needs a very big lifestyle change. So if you could, you know, come up with a pair of glasses that if you wear those, your dark circles go away, I think that would be an interesting one.
Absolutely. I would absolutely go and purchase that first because I anyways need it.
Right.
Nonetheless, you know, if another question would be, say, if your products could talk, right, what would your products go and tell a customer?
Interesting. Interesting. So I think our lipsticks would go tell a customer that, you know, don't mind me on your lips. I'm completely safe, right? Because you anyway end up
Correct, chewing it.
chewing it, or you know, it goes in with your
Consuming
food. So our ghee-based Ayurvedic lipsticks, they may not be the most long-lasting because there's no silicones or you know this thing added to it, but absolutely safe. So I think the lipsticks are going to probably say that. Our micellar water, which is a saptajal, might say that.
What
you
is
know,
a saptaja?
so it's got 7 waters in it. So
Okay.
micellar water is a French formulation.
Yeah.
So this is ours with the Ayurvedic twist, where we have Trifla Jal, Tulsi Jal, 7 plant waters in a micellar water form. So these 7 plant waters, and in which we have oil droplets
Okay.
which are suspended. You know, which is the way micellar waters are made, but it's just that ours is made with natural ingredients.
formulations.
It's a natural formulation. So that's called Saptajal.
And what would that say?
That would say that, look, I've got Tulsi Trifla in me, and at the same time, I'm a toner and a makeup remover as well, and I smell great. So yeah.
Great. And say if you could pick any of the characters from the past, probably any mythical character, right? What product they would be using, and what would be the tagline of that product?
Wow, this is crazy, right? So mythical character from the past. I'll take some time to think about
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Mythical character from the past. Wow. I think Cleopatra would be using our Kim Sukadi oil, right?
Okay.
And she would be saying, this is what kind of makes me look the way I do, right? Apply a few drops at night, and wake up to sort of glowing, plump skin.
And what if I would say that choose an Indian character?
Choose an Indian character. Wow. Okay. How far back can I go?
As far as you feel like. Probably the Mahabharata, Ramayana times.
Wow. Interesting. Mahabharata or Ramayana times.
So say probably Ravan is one of the characters, right?
Yeah.
What would you suggest Ravan as one of the products, probably, a tagline attached to that?
I think Ravan would really benefit from, Ravan would be like, can you come up with a hair oil bottle which can,
For these 10 heads.
give a head massage on 10 heads or something like that.
Absolutely.
I'm very bad at this.
No, but you guys are very creative in terms of the campaigns that you guys are doing. I
Yeah.
recently just saw your fragrance campaign that you did, and it
Yeah.
was very quirky as well as subtle at the same time.
Yeah.
So just wanted to understand what's the exact essence that you want to pass on to the audience.
So I'll be
Where-
very honest with you. The big reason there was we didn't want to spend too much money. We didn't have too much of a budget.
Correct.
That's number one. Number two is perfume is a new category for us. We're not the first ones doing this.
Absolutely.
People have sold perfume before us, and it's been around 3-4 major themes that
Correct.
it will help you attract a mate. In fact, the whole idea behind a fragrance is mammals produce all sorts of smells to attract mates. That's a
Correct.
biological fact.
Correct.
And how do you depict a fragrance, show a fragrance on screen, right? So those were the thoughts that we were struggling with. How do we kind of show the power of smell, visually? And before us, people have done that same thing. The guy sprays a perfume and 20 girls start following him,
Correct,
vice
correct.
versa. They sexualize it, all the time.
Absolutely.
We clearly didn't want to do that. So then we thought of an idea. We thought, let's create, a situation where people are blindfolded and they smell something, and then they guess what it is basis that smell.
Correct.
And when they remove the blindfold, it
There's
turns out to be
something
something else, like a
Yeah.
social experiment. And then, because of budgetary constraints,
I think you were the person who
I was the one who I was the one who was asked to do that.
part.
Yeah.
But actually it helps, right? It creates more trust amongst the audience also when the founder themselves come and they
Yeah.
talk about their product in a way.
Right.
So that was a very smart move that you guys did that way.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it turned out to be fun. I think we got a lot of. We didn't spend a rupee promoting that ad. I think it absolutely went viral
Correct.
on LinkedIn, that too.
Correct.
We didn't even post it, we just posted on Instagram, but it did surprisingly well on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn.
Just covered in a lot of newspapers also the other time. A lot of publishing had, was talking about it and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was very quirky in that way.
Yes.
Because all the time we have seen fragrance ads in a very different way, and it was a very different approach on those senses.
Yeah, right. Inki to kat gayi na.
Absolutely that way.
Yeah.
Also, when we talk about, you being an entrepreneur, obviously, you must be juggling between different tasks all the time, right? Scale करना है, new products are there. Earlier days में आप जाकर के चीज़ें भी deliver करते थे, when you were in the earlier days of it. So how do you, navigate between all this as a person? And how do you stay grounded? Plus, how do you stay in the correct headset? Because when you're juggling with a lot of things in life, you usually go through a troll. Your mental health goes through a troll. So how do you stay active that way? How do you maintain that peace and calm?
So I think that's what I mean. This is not something that I practiced from day one, but over the years, what I have started learning is that this entire journey is full of highs and lows, and there are more lows than there are highs,
Correct.
right? So there'll be moments when you feel ecstatic because this month has gone really well and we've done amazing sales, and then you see, and anybody who's listening who's an entrepreneur will relate that there is a lot of pressure and yaar PO ही नहीं आ रहा, sale ही नहीं है, मतलब कैसे होगा, how will this quarter happen? So I think you need to kind of not get too negative or get too positive. You just got to be normal.
Neutral.
Most of the time, neutral. So this is one thing you got to do for your mental peace, right? Or to stay calm, because you need to be, mentally very, very sound to be taking the right decisions at the right time. You can't compromise on that. That is one. Second, I think getting some sort of exercise, both physical and mental. I think it sounds very basic, na?
Correct.
But it's the most ignored thing.
It's the most undervalued thing, to be very
The most
honest.
undervalued thing. You're sitting on a desk all the time, right? And I just learned that I've got the tightest hamstrings, probably. My doctor has ever seen. A guy my age. So not cool at all, right? Should not be, compromising on your health, etc. Because that is what is gonna make you build that unicorn,
Correct,
or whatever you're trying to
absolutely.
do. These are the two things I think are of prime importance, right? I think your mood should not be dependent on what's happening,
going on.
and please don't think that I've attained this myself.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. I'm getting better at it. At least I realize that these things are important, right? And that's why I want to put it out there through your podcast as well, that whoever's listening, I think it's perfectly fine to have those highs and lows.
Correct.
It's not going to last forever.
Correct. You'll have bad days, good days, both days,
Yeah,
right? But
there
you
you
need to
go.
find that balance.
There you go. Yeah.
So when we talk about balance, lately, obviously, there have been floods into the area from where you guys are shipping and all that, right? So I was just going through your Instagram page and I just saw that, you guys just put a video out jahan pe, people have placed their orders, but, because of whatever the reasons were, you were not able to ship the products in time, right? But एक कंज्यूमर को वो चीज़ें ध्यान नहीं रहती है, राइट? उनको तो लगता है दैट वी हैव ऑर्डर्ड समथिंग, वी शुड गेट इट द नेक्स्ट डे. दैट इज द इंडियन कंज्यूमर का माइंडसेट, दैट आज ऑर्डर किया है तो कल आ जाना चाहिए, नो मैटर व्हाट, राइट? अभी we saw that how your team was working in getting the products
They're still
out.
working, by the
yeah,
way.
they're still working, obviously. So what do you feel that how come your team is your biggest strength, and in what all ways your team acts as a backbone for you? Probably there could be any instances apart from this one also.
I think definitely. I think you cannot build a business without a solid team, right? And you cannot build a solid team without trust. If I'm sitting here and talking to you, I am fully confident that there's a team who's at Pragati Maidan right now exhibiting at the expo. There are people back in Chandigarh who are fielding queries from customers. There's people working in the warehouse. They're going to be working for the next 3 days, and they've been already doing that to clear that order backlog, right? You cannot build a business if you're just firefighting on your own all the time, right? So that is a given, right? A team is a backbone, no doubt about it, and I'm no different. Every entrepreneur will say that to you. I think one instance that I remember is that I just finished speaking to a potential investor. This is the time of COVID, where I'm under quarantine in one room, Megha is in another room. We're talking to each other through messages, right? And I hang up that call and I just fall on the bed because now I know I'm down with COVID, right? I've just gotten COVID. And this is like the first wave where, like, you know, if you get COVID, you're on the news.
Correct,
You know, it was like that. You know, people were like, "Oh, isko COVID ho gaya." You know, that
They
is
used to look at that way कि भाई पता
yeah,
नहीं क्या
isko
हो
kya ho
गया.
gaya, right? वो वाला scene था ये. So there was a lot of stress of knowing that you've gotten COVID.
Correct.
On top of that, business is down to zero practically, and you're raising funds.
Correct.
So, you know, for those listening in who don't know how this process works, it's not that you pitch to an investor and you have money in the bank the next day. No, they really drag it out.
Correct.
It's a long, painful, long drawn process in which you're being judged every other day, right? And your numbers are being watched. And you know, although they know that, you know, numbers can go up and down, it's business, but no, during that period you must grow. You have to just keep growing. So there's that pressure. Got COVID with limited amount of money lying in the bank, you know, because that's a worry too, because you got to take care of your team, etc. And that month was probably the best month we had in the last 24 months, where I'm not even working, right? And the team is managing stuff. That too sitting remotely, like the office is also shut.
Would have been new for everybody.
The guys in the warehouse, you know, hats off to them. The guys at the factory, hats off to them. I mean, we, by the way, make the products ourselves, right?
Correct.
So we do that much more. There's that much more magajmari in our case.
Correct.
So it's not like, you know, things are getting made and just coming, right? So all of that operation is running, you know, with all those permits that people had taken and all that. Can never forget that, and really thankful to the team. Yeah. So that is one.
It shows that, you know, how much it takes to build a great team, right?
Yeah.
Matlab, you must have built that culture back then.
Yeah.
Henceforth, you know, it helped you at a time where, you know, most of the things are falling apart.
You know, it's an ongoing process. So it will never say ki the culture building stopped now. No, you know, now the team is it is an ongoing process.
You
You
need
have
to
keep doing
maintain
it.
that also.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
So it's not like that कि आज मैंने अपनी team के लिए culture build कर दिया, so वो चलता जाएगा. Every day I would have to put in efforts to maintain
And you know,
that
culture, you know, we human beings, we kind of learn by example, right? You and I, we learn by example. So, you know, जितना हो सकता है यार, we ourselves put ourselves to that standard, right? So, Saturdays are working at Just Herbs, you know, putting it out there, whether we like it or not. And that's a rule for everybody, including me.
Correct.
You know, so I think we need to work on Saturdays, and that's how it is. And that is a part of our culture. But Saturdays are also fun because there are games and there are activities.
Must be having activities and all that,
so
right? Apart from Saturdays also, मतलब, you know, to keep your employee motivated till Saturday, आपको मतलब पूरा week में भी you need to maintain a flow also, right? Not like कि बंदे को इतना feel हो रहा है कि यार मेरे को Saturday को आना पड़ रहा है. Obviously they're doing something of value. They themselves are, you know, in a way.
See, I think mostly तो यार, I personally think mostly तो that thing of value should be the work that you are doing. You should be passionate about it so that it doesn't feel like work. That's the ideal scenario. But yeah, I mean, like if some people think that getting pizza now and then helps them, then, you know,
So why not?
Then why not, you know?
Absolutely. So now when we're talking about culture and all those things, right? I just read it somewhere on your LinkedIn only while I was talking to you for this podcast.
Yeah.
So, you know, you mentioned in a post that, you know, there are two sort of brands. One is branded, one is BrandLed, right?
Yeah.
These are two sort of companies which are there, right? So just wanted to ask you, what are you thinking of Just Herbs as?
So the idea is to be a brand-led company. Are we that right now? I don't think so. I think brands can't be built in like 10. Brands are like a long-term game, you know.
Correct.
Think of the iconic brands, you know, that come to your mind.
Yeah.
They're not even 10 years old. They're like not 20 years
Correct.
old. They're like
Hundreds and
yonks.
50s and yeah.
You know, so like that's a very long game to play. But to my mind, I think the vision that when you asked me previously also, the vision for me for Just Herbs is that, right? I have a lot of things that I want to do, you know, for the brand, you know, but I think those will need their own time, you know.
Correct.
Whether I get that time or not is a different story, but I think the vision is
It's again
grand.
a legacy that you want to
Yeah.
leave behind, right?
Yeah. Why I want to do that, even I don't know, but that is what it is. That's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. So now when we're talking about it, you know, probably a jingle that you have in your head about Just Herbs that
Wow.
describes the current state of your head regarding Just Herbs. Could be any
Never
Hindi
thought
song,
of-
English song, anything that you feel like would be a good fit.
What jingle would it be?
Or probably a song.
Well, I think one song which is sort of stuck in my head these days is what I sing to my daughter, which is the bare necessities from Jungle Book.
Huh.
You look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Correct.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strifes. I mean the bare necessities, the Mother Nature's recipes, and bring those bare necessities.
See, it absolutely fits your brand as well, right?
Absolutely.
Mother Nature, the necessities all in place.
Yeah.
No, that's glad. So now as we are wrapping this up, Arush, I would just like you to probably share I would say advice or probably a tagline that you can share to people who want to build into a segment of entrepreneurship, be it into the D2C space or any other space for that matter, but they want to build something which is of value, which has something of impact attached to their idea, not like any random idea, right? They should have a impact to that idea attached. So what is your advice to such people?
I don't think I don't see impact as a very subjective term, right? I mean, you might be running. I mean, we're in the beauty business. A lot of people might say, "Isse kya impact ho raha hai?" You know what I'm saying? But the point is, no matter what you do, if you make a sizable business now, you will create some impact.
Correct.
Some people are going to get employed there. Some people are, you are going to generate employment in this country, and we need to generate jobs in India,
Correct.
right? We have more people than there are jobs.
Correct.
So I think entrepreneurship is a great way to create that impact. I think the message would rather be that don't get bogged down. Don't give up. That would be one message, and the other message is that actually not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, because like I just said, it's not that easy. It is hard. Sometimes if you're not cut out for it, that's normal, right? I mean,
Correct.
that kickboxing wala thing. Why do you have to? Everybody doesn't want to be a kickboxer.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But you can be entrepreneurial in what you do. So you could be in a job where you're taking responsibility to build a business from scratch, and that's a great situation to be in. So it's somebody else's capital, and you're getting to sort of satisfy your entrepreneurship
Correct.
kida.
Correct.
And I'm looking for such people all the time, and I'm lucky that I have a lot of entrepreneurial folks in my team. Some of them who weren't entrepreneurial have become over time, and I think that is also a very good situation to be in.
So this is the advice that you have for people, right? That you don't need to be entrepreneurs to specifically, get into that
So
domain. You can keep that mindset.
Don't just fall in love with the idea of startups. This that's okay. That's not going to last forever. I think just understand what is it that you're liking about that,
Correct.
and you can always find that in your own job. If you don't, go speak to your your boss or whoever is your manager, and you can create opportunities for yourself within where you're working, and feel entrepreneurial about it and show your entrepreneurial spirit. And these days that is possible.
Great. So with this we conclude this podcast. Thank you so much, Arush, for doing this with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. A pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you for staying till the end of this episode. If you liked the episode, do comment, share and subscribe. Also, stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Till then, inspire for impact.